Welcome to the Skeptic's Guide to Investing with Steve Davenport and Clem Miller. Every 2 weeks, Steve and Clem bring you brief investment insights you may not find anywhere else. We hope you enjoy today's episode. Here are Steve and Clem.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Skeptic's Guide to Investing. This is Clem Miller. I'm here with Steve Davenport. And today, in this episode, we are going to be talking about what we're thankful for, considering that a week from tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the United States. And so it's worthwhile talking about Thanksgiving. And we're going to talk not just about what we're thankful for personally, but also what we're thankful for in the markets. So really those two different areas we're going to be talking about. And so let me start off by asking you, Steve, what are you thankful for personally, and what are you thankful for when it comes to the markets?
Well, thanks, Clem. I'm thankful for you as my partner on these podcasts. I think we've, you were gone for a month there in Japan, and I had to hold down the fort and try to keep things going at the Skeptics Guide, and it was, it was a challenge. So it's good to have you bearing the load with me on these pieces. I guess I would say that personally, I think that of yourself, and I think about my overall wellness, and part of it is mental, part of it is physical, and part of it is spiritual. And I would look at myself and say, right now, we just finished a big project at our house, putting a porch on the back, and we're sitting at looking at the leaves change here in North Carolina, and we're feeling pretty good about where we are, and our kids coming to visit for Thanksgiving. So we're feeling good in terms of overall wellness. I think that what I like to do is to just break it down into something simple, which is, we have a very good opportunity right now in this market to preserve and grow what we have. And I think that personally, there's always something on the horizon that you're looking at and trying to figure out what you should do. And I think it's the same in markets, right? I think that we can look at the present and say, okay, here's the balance sheet. Here's my, overall for Davenport and Co. Here's my, the value of my assets, the value of my liabilities, and, how are all of my children doing? I find that they're the biggest investment I've ever made, and they're the things that I think about every day as I think about how to make things better. So, in my mind, all my kids are doing great. My son just came back from Thailand, and he was there for 2 weeks, or almost 15 days when you add the travel time. And he was flying back from Riyadh, and he went around the world that way. And it's kind of an interesting world when you think about, everything going on, and, how do we travel safely? How does he get through airports? He tells me about you losing his earbuds in the conveyor belts when he was trying to get the things through in the checkpoints. And I just think it's an amazing process. He was telling us about a dinner he had at, and he said, yeah, we could go out for dinner, and the two of us would have, 3 entrees, a couple of appetizers, and a couple of sodas, and the whole bill was $10. And he says, coming back to America, he says, this food cost is just killing me. And I tried to take that with a grain of salt, but I think it's interesting how he looks at the basics and how he could survive in Thailand, even in the touristy sections, versus the life we have here in America. It is expensive. And I think that, we can be thankful for all the choices and all the access to different things, but there is a question about costs and inflation. And I think when we travel, we get a perspective for what's going on in the rest of the world and how what we have and what we do fits. And I think it creates perspective. And I'm glad, we're looking forward to going through his pictures and seeing the different areas. And I was surprised that he didn't give it a higher mark. I've heard of Thailand being a beautiful place to visit, and he only gave it like a high 6 or a low 7. And I, asked him what did he think about, compared to his other trips in Japan and Iceland and Hawaii. And he put Hawaii ahead, and he put Japan and Iceland ahead. So I think it's interesting that we all have different ideas of paradise, right? And we all have different ideas about what other people are doing. And the thing that I realized is I really enjoy the fact that my children are traveling. And my daughter went to a wedding in South Korea. My other daughter went to a conference in Turkey. So it is becoming a much smaller world. I think that the information and the opportunities we have to listen on and learn about different cultures, I think it makes us better people. And travel, in my mind, helps open up the mind and helps you think about how and what is important to you. What do you think about what's important and personal gratitude? Do you have any things that jump out at you there, traveler boy?
Well, well, I would say that I am very grateful, being in retirement now. I am very grateful about the fact that I have a lot of time that I didn't have previously when I was working. I used to be something of a workaholic. I wouldn't take off a lot of time. I would always have my phone on to answer things while I was away. It was just, it was what I was used to, right? Then
Right.
the pandemic came along, and as bad as the pandemic was, and it was horrible, and I don't want to take away from the horrificness of it, it kind of opened my eyes to, some important things. And, I could spend an hour here talking about all the things that are important. But one of the things that it really opened my eyes to is the value of time and how time is so important. And, take advantage of walking around nature, to spend time relaxing, to spend time reading and writing and doing things that are interesting to you, like my teaching, my class at Georgetown. Very interesting to me to do that. Travel. I've tried to get a lot of travel in this year. I pretty much have been away for almost 2 months. Earlier this year, I was up in Canada, looking at puffins, icebergs, and whales in Newfoundland and Labrador. And then this fall I was in Japan for a month. So in Tokyo and Kyoto, which is probably one of my favorite places in the world, Kyoto. Um, so
Nice.
so I love the time. The time is super important. It's time I wouldn't have had I continued to work. And honestly, I think a lot of people when they're working, uh, they can't envision themselves having enough money to retire on, and it's actually not as bad. It's actually pretty easy to retire, I think, to tell you the truth. Maybe I'm just lucky, or maybe I'm just skilled, or some combination of that. But I just feel like it's not that difficult to manage retirement and to afford retirement. I can see why some people would I can see why some people would say, well, what am I going to do in retirement? And certainly there are people who, retire and they've got absolutely nothing to do. And, my biggest advice of all for people in terms of thinking about retirement is really think about what you're going to do, right? I know some people say, "Oh, I'm going to do some woodworking." Oh, that's BS. You gotta think about things you really enjoy doing. And I think those people who have known me the longest know that uh, you know, getting involved in, analyzing things and writing things and teaching things are really things that I enjoy doing. And I get an even bigger chance to do these now than I ever did, during my work life. So I think that I'm grateful for all of those things, and family, of course, right? Uh, but I can't. But in terms of our limited time here, I wanted to be, grateful for retirement.
We'll be right back.
We hope you're enjoying our episodes. If you are, then we'd greatly appreciate your liking, following, and sharing. Help us help others. Now let's get back to the discussion.
Nice. I mean, I look at the next question, which is a little harder, which is what are we grateful for in markets? And what do we think about things that, you know, I know we have ideas of risks and things, but I overall, I look at the technology boom that we've had, and it comes from a lot of great companies that we have located in the US, but also great companies like TSMC and ASML around the world. So to me, the deep, deep thinkers at some of these companies who are thinking forward and even going into the whole quantum space, I think it's an exciting time because I think that these companies are going to get rewarded by the ones who have the better designs and the better software. And I think it's a kind of, Internet 3.0. If the first internet was, okay, it was over dial-up, and then the second internet, was over 4G, 5G, and more images and than we ever thought possible being transmitted across all the different platforms. And I think now we're into the third generation, which is the computer as aid or as advisor. And I think that it's an exciting time. I don't think I think there is room for fear, but I also think there's a lot of room for success in terms of, would it be nice for me to be able to say to Alexa, "Hey, Alexa, tell me what my medicine is for today and what I need to take." Tell me, and have these ideas about, okay, I just got a nudge to buy some more fresh vegetables today. And I think that we're getting to an age where there's going to be a lot of ways that the quality of our life can be improved. And I think that we always talk about job losses, but what about enhancements? I mean, are there going to be enhancements to our life as we go forward? I think you and I, being old dogs, will probably see some, but I really look at my children, in their 20s and 30s and think their world at 62 is going to be a lot different than mine. I think there's going to be a lot of things that happen over the next 20 years that are going to be transformational in people's lives. So I appreciate that the markets are trying to think into the future and trying to get an advantage, and they're not laying down and saying, well, that's not my job. Google is saying, hey, if we want to be great, we have to have our own chips. Okay, you know what I mean? Like the companies that have figured it out, just like when we talk about technology in the terms of the auto taking over for the horse and buggy. I think that, we talked about the computer taking over for the mainframe. I think we're, in one of those kind of once in 100 years type of change. And I think it's, going to be interesting to see what and how it affects the lives of others. And what I would say about being thankful personally and for markets is that we have to stop and appreciate it. I think we have to stop and appreciate, like you said, we have the time to go for a walk or do some meditation or read a book or an article on something that's more than 10 minutes. It used to be I'd speed read through articles because I felt like I had to read it, but I really didn't have the time to fully digest it. And now I think I have a little more time to do that. So in my mind, I think we're kind of in a great point in our lives. We're very fortunate. I realize I didn't think I would ever be here when I was 32 years old and starting out in my career and trying to figure out whether I wanted to be an engineer or whether I wanted to be in finance. And, I'm very happy with the result. But I guess I'd say for our listeners out there who are interested in financial wellness, um, I think we should all be thankful for the 401k system. It's a great way for companies to contribute to your retirement. I realize they gave up a payment to us in the pension form of a pension that was even better. But I do think that for people who, have the discipline and can do something with their other assets, I think the 401k and expansion of the 401k is a great thing. I think that maybe adding private equity with some kind of guardrails around it, I don't know. I think it involves a lot more risk than people are familiar with, and I think it's probably getting the last, gasp of those assets that are chosen are not the assets that got chosen by CalPERS and not the assets that got chosen by, the different foundations and endowments. It's, these are what's left for the people who are, at the lower end of the food chain. But look, overall, market's up 21, 22, and I don't know what this year will end up. Um, we've had a good run, and I think that good runs are usually a signal to, put a little aside and, be willing and able to sustain a downturn. So I guess I'd say as we head into Thanksgiving, I'm thankful that markets are as liquid and have been as strong as they've been. And I'm hopeful that they're going to continue to deliver new solutions for people. Like we haven't talked about the GLP and the, obesity drugs, but I think what we said was the human genome, when it gets mapped, we're going to find and discover things. And I think this is a big example of how some people's lives can be improved for, diabetes and other weight management stuff. So I'm pretty happy with the overall, there's a lot to be thankful for. And I don't know, I just wrap it up by saying that I think we're in a golden age, really. So I think that all of us should be looking at ourselves and our situations and saying, what can we do to make them better? But boy, there's really some good things happening. How would you wrap it up, Clem?
Well, I mean, one thing I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that things would look a lot different in society and the economy and in markets if we had not invented the COVID drugs. I can't imagine what society would be like had we not had fast fast development and fast implementation by Pfizer and Moderna and the others of those drugs. Even with the development and implementation of those drugs, we have a society that was to some degree damaged, I would say, by the whole COVID experience.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Could have been far worse. So I think
Oh,
that's not a 2025 development, those drugs, but it's a persistent positive benefit, regardless of what Maha people might say or what, right? We're in a much better place right now, about those drugs, and it even allows people to look back and say, well, did we really need them? Well, that tells you that we did need them. The fact that they have the leisure of being able to go back and make that kind of judgment. So I'm pretty happy about that. Um, my I think I think it's
What
too
about
early to.
markets? You happy with markets?
Yeah, I think
I
this
mean,
year.
you've been in gold, and gold is up 50% with an
Yeah,
average return of 7. So I don't know
yeah.
how you can't have gold on your list of things to be happy about. I mean,
I'm very happy about my gold holdings. And I'm very happy about my AI holdings, although I've been trimming them over the last couple of months, as I've been mentioning on this program, on this podcast. I have been trimming them. I'm a little nervous that, the market is getting out over its skis with regard to some of these AI stocks. I do believe that it's a long-term benefit, AI. I believe that there will be further rounds of growth in this. It's not this is not the internet bubble, right? The internet bubble, 2000, 2001, that was all about, uh,
eyeballs.
yeah, eyeballs, clicks, stocks that had no profits. We have profits, we have growth, we have long-term growth prospects. It's just a question of whether valuations are too high.
Right.
And I think that because of that, we're going to see some pullbacks now and then. I'm a little concerned that what we're seeing right now might be the beginning of one. I'm not 100% sure, but it could well be the beginning of one. But I have a lot of cash. I have a lot of gold. That's stuff that I can translate into purchases of stocks, if the markets pull back.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I think it's healthy. I mean, I've said all along that I don't like seeing everybody on one side of the boat. And I think that people now are starting to, you know, and I don't know whether the selling in crypto is a sign of more reasonable holders. I don't know if it's a sign of, people who are using margin to buy crypto are now seeing their underlying names go down, and so they want to sell their their crypto positions because they've had a nice run from the 40s to the 120. We've seen a good more than 20%, decline in crypto. And I think that if you look at the riskiest asset, I'd put that there because of the lack of earnings. And I think that
the
the
lack of
names like you
anything.
talk about have high multiples, but at least it's multiples on real earnings and it's
Yeah.
not, fictional. So, I think we're in a pretty good place. And I
Oh,
guess
let me
I'd
just
just,
say, Steve, one more thing, before we quit, which is that, the great performance we've had from the stock market this year has surprisingly been resilient in terms of being able to not be too overly influenced by all the policy developments and confusion that comes out of Washington. So you could have had a lot more chaos. You had the chaos on the original tariff announcement, the so-called Liberation Day. But there's been so much chaos that I think markets have shown some resilience to that, and I'm quite happy about that.
yeah, I think the last person, I guess, or the last group I'd like to thank is our listeners.
Yeah.
We're now up to 110 episodes. We've been doing this for 2 years, and it feels like there's a real joy when we get together and talk about these ideas and try to toss around and try to give people who are trying to improve their financial wellness something to think about. And I think we've tried to deliver a timely discussion, and we've tried to deliver, some yin and some yang and some, quantitative and some fundamental and a little bit of everything. And I'd say thanks to the listeners for sticking with us. And we've tried to talk to more guests. And, as always, this is your show. So let us know what you think. And we've got a survey out there under Clem about what type of things you want us to focus on in the new year. So give us your thoughts. Give us an email. Give us a text. Let us know what you think. And I guess I'll call it a day. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we appreciate you, and we want you to have the best. Happy Thanksgiving, and just enjoy wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Take a moment and just feel some gratitude. And I think it's a great time of year to remind us after the harvest in the fall with the leaves falling, it's, there's a lot to think about this year and a lot of things in people's lives. And I think everybody should have a great Thanksgiving. Okay.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
The views shared on this podcast represent the personal investment views of the hosts. They are for educational purposes and not meant to be taken as investment advice. Listeners should consult their own investment, legal, and tax advisors. Past performance of any investments is not a guarantee for future return.